Hello everyone! Welcome back to another 2v2 battle. This is going to be Dwarves and Empire versus 2 Empire. I'm bringing the Slayer army back for another try, so that means we have 3 groups of Slayers. We have 4 Dwarf Warriors, 1 Dwarf Warrior with great weapons, we have 1 normal Longbeard there, 1 Longbeard with great weapons, we have a Runesmith, Ungrim of course, and then I'm also going to be bringing a Thane this time, just because I never use Thanes, but they do look really cool. I'll give them that. They look really cool. My Empire ally here is bringing a line of spearmen. We have a steam tank, a group of Empire Knights, 2 Hellstorm rocket batteries, 2 great swords, 2 crossbows. We also have Balthazar Gelt and then a Imperial captain on a Pegasus. We are facing off against 2 other Empire players, a mass of halberdiers. We have Balthazar Gelt on this side as well, a Bright Wizard, 3 handgunners, 4 crossbows, 2 Hell Blaster volley guns. Then this player brought swordsmen, a great cannon, 3 mortar teams, 2 great swords, and 2 Demigryph Knights, one of which has halberds. They are being led by Carl Franz, on a Griffin. So what's kind of interesting here is that between the 3 Empire players, almost every piece of artillery is represented by each 3 player here, except for the Luminarch of Hysh. No love for the Luminarch of Hysh, I don't know why. But yeah, so I did change my Slayer build here just slightly, because with the Slayer build I try to bring great weapons on everybody, but when faced against 2 Empire players, having a front line of Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, and then all Longbeards with great weapons, doesn't make as much sense. There's not going to be that much armor to pierce in an Imperial army unless they spam great swords. Well, I mean, the Cav also has heavy armor, but the great weapons aren't really meant for Cav specifically. That's mostly left for these Slayers back here. So right now, I'm starting the battle a little later. We did start here, and all I did was move my army over here. I'm currently okay with getting shot by this great cannon because I'm waiting for my ally to pull up these Hellstorm rocket batteries into position to start peppering their lines, because the great cannon is the only thing they currently have that can even snipe the Hellstorm. So I was okay with sitting back for a little bit and taking the fire, and you can see it's already taken its toll on a Dwarf Warrior and a Dwarf Warrior with great weapons. My allies sent up their 1 group of Empire Knights, and they're going to try to go up here and silence these Hell's Blaster volley guns. These 2 Hell Blasters I was really worried about. That's another reason why I decided to stay back and not immediately charge. Because I already know 2 Hell Blasters on top of a hill, that's going to destroy my army. So I was really happy to see my allies sending the Empire Knights to come up here and snipe them. Meanwhile, the Hellstorms are getting in position to fire their rockets. And when they start taking out these Hell Blaster volley guns, I'm going to start moving our forces up. Very gutsy move for these Empire Knights. So many halberdiers around. But it was a nice snipe. Now they're not going to be gone for good. The Hellblaster crews are actually going to come back, but a lot of them did die in this attack. You can see I'm making my approach because the mortar teams are now firing. Because we're getting in range. My ally is going to move up their forces a little bit more. But for the most part, they're going to stay around this general area and fire off their Hell Blasters. Or Hell Storms, sorry. And we're just going to make our charge here. Under constant volley fire of mortars. Some of these dwarves will get back up. Those dwarves probably not going to get back up. Whew. Again, the mortars look more impressive than they actually are against dwarven heavy armor. But they do look very impressive, but a lot of these dwarves do get back up. You can take a look at the hit points right now. So after taking some shells, you can see it hasn't done too much. Now over here, one of my enemies decides to move out from their spot at the base of this hill. I'm assuming because they just kept getting shot up by these Hellstorm rocket batteries. And there was a moment right here where I was about to assign my Quarrelers to try and shoot down their crossbows because they were in range. But then I kind of second guessed. I was like, no, because there's so much artillery here. I really need to silence all of this. I can't allow it to continue any longer. So I'm going to just let this opponent move out. There could be maybe an argument to be made that we could assign some forces to shoot their flanks, but I decided this was more of the important target. So we're just going to charge ahead. There goes some of our Quarrelers against the Great Cannon crew right here. The Hellstorm or Hell Blaster crews got back on the guns that they could man, and they are just going to start to chew into my right flank here of Dwarf Warriors. This is not a sight that Dwarf armies want to see. Now, normally, Hell Blasters aren't too much of an issue, because in most Dwarf armies, you're probably going to be sitting back more often than not with a bunch of artillery to snipe such contraptions. But with the Slayer army, we don't believe in artillery. No, so we're going to charge into these Hellblaster volley guns sitting on top of a hill way in the back. Here goes our initial charge off. We have a Rune Smith leading some Dwarf Warriors who are getting shut up. Some Rune Smith buffs are going to be dropping down. Karl Franz actually grabs some of these Dwarf Warriors, and he's going to cause a lot of damage there. Ungrim is going to be manning the center of the line. And then our Thane should be over on the left side. There you are. Now the left side is where the two greatsword groups are. So I'm trying to get our great weapons over there. And I'm going to be focusing them down with a couple of our Quarrelers who are now getting shut up by the mortar teams. Also, you can see we have had some routing from Karl Franz. I'm sending some Slayers to try and tie him down, but he is going to be able to fly off. These Slayers are then going to be assigned to try and flank around and silence these siege weapons, because they are pretty fast. But these mortar teams are really beating up my poor Quarrelers over here, while the other two continue to focus fire down on the greatswords. Now, the Quarrelers are not armor-piercing, so I could have stayed focusing on just shooting up the crews of the mortar teams, but I knew I had Slayers that were going to be going over there to take care of them. And out of the infantry over here, I'm most worried about the greatswords, so I just wanted to try and get as much DPS down on them as possible, because these things could just tear through, honestly, most of my army if they're not shut down. Which is why I'm focusing on them. Meanwhile, stuff is happening over there we will check out later. Look at that Thane. They look really cool. Oh, good old Ungrim. Our Runesmith is casting their Wrath of Ruin on some of the nearby swordsmen. It's not a very long-range spell, or else I would have cast it on the greatswords, but they are on the opposite side of this line engagement, so I couldn't reach them. But that would be my priority target for the Rune of Wrath and Ruin from them. Here go our Slayers. One group is already into the Hellblaster volley guns. And I'm going to send the other group over here against the mortars. Now, remembering that these things form a natural barrier, I'm going to eventually give them, here they are, I'm giving them move orders to move in the center of this to try and just get past these damn mortars, because I'm tired of these artillery pieces holding my forces back. And so there we go. Now we're going to get you the attack order and actually get some damage done. Meanwhile, one of my Quarrelers was almost destroyed. The others are currently being shot up by the mortar teams, and they are continuing their fire against the left flank here to try and silence these swordsmen. My other group of Slayers, we did miss this fight here. They got charged by the Demigryph Knights with halberds, and they got cleaned up by the Greatswords and the Demigryph Knights. But I still do have two groups of Slayers over here. Another Rune of Wrath and Ruin being dropped to some swordsmen. Right now I'm sending Ungrim, or will be sending Ungrim, to try and deal with Karl Franz, who's nearby. Ooh. Oh man, Ungrim wore that in the face. And then here we go. We have wrapped up the mortar teams and the Hell Blasters, so we are going to get into the Great Cannon. And this other second group of Slayers that we have remaining are going to charge into the stationary Demigryph Knights. Yeah! Surround them! They're going to try to pull out, but we are going to be relentless in our attack, and we're going to chase them down. With our hatchets high. So we're going to get a second charge on these Demigryph Knights. They're going to be battling it out. My other group of Slayers are just continuing to clean up the great cannons, and they're going to be charging in the backs of these great swords. And you can see, for the most part, my enemy's line here has started to collapse just because of the support of our heroes and Ungrim, our quarrelers focusing people down, and our infantry is basically better than the swordsmen for the most part when backed up by so many heroes, which we have here. Karl Franz tried to do his best, but Ungrim did actually force him off the battlefield there because Ungrim is a beast, and we get a victory off of the enemy here. So let us show it from my allies' perspective and then talk about the battle. So the knights have just been chased off of the hill here, and now the enemy army is going to be getting peppered by all of these rockets. And there go those mortar teams. Our poor dwarves off there in the distance. So let's see how many hits these rockets get. Okay, alright. Couple solid hits in that salvo. All those mortar shells in the back. I don't know, would you say 50-50 so far? Maybe less than 50% seem to be getting some solid hits? I don't know, it's hard to tell. Meanwhile, the steam tank is over here off by its lonesome, just shooting into the flanks of the enemy as they advance, which I like. What up, steam tank? Nice hit. So you can see they're taking quite a beating. Actually, are they? Yeah, sure. A group of crossbows and rifles have been kind of silenced for the most part. This group of crossbows are taking a beating. So this was an odd choice. My enemy, who had the two Demigryph Knights, they ended up sending the non-halberd knights against the steam tank and left the halberd knights back to fight me off as the dwarf. I don't know if my enemy realized what they did. Maybe they thought they sent off the halberd unit, but this should be flipped. The halberd should be sent against the steam tank, and the normal Demigryph knights should be kept to fight me off because they are more suited to fighting dwarves than the halberds. Halberds still do a fine job. They do a fine job against any kind of enemy, really. And these Demigryph Knights are still going to be able to damage the steam tank a bit, though. Even though they are not the ideal set of knights to do that. Here we go. My enemy's spear line is going to march forward to try and save their Hellstorm rockets. You have those two crossbows on the top of the hill firing down, and we still do have two greatswords in reserve. There goes Gehenna's Hounds into these units of halberdiers from Gelt. That's a really, that was a nice one. The path that it took was pretty good. You have some of the handgunners and crossbows firing into the spear line. Meanwhile, the entire infantry force, I guess, is trying to just bust through the center of this formation with the halberds to try and get into the Hellstorms and, I guess, the crossbows. Meanwhile, you have some fire spells from the enemy's Bright Whistle going on the Hellstorm crew. We have the debuff, I believe, going down. Maybe not. Ooh. Nice. Over here, the steam tank has been mostly destroyed by those Demigryph Knights by this point. But the Hellstorm rocket batteries are still free to fire, so if the enemy was so concerned about them, they should have been sending these crossbows. Also, they have an Empire captain on their flank over there, to shoot at the crews, but it looks like they were just shooting up the spearmen, which the spearmen are put here, I think, for that exact reason, just to soak up fire and protect the artillery for as long as possible. So they did a good job. You died very well, Spearman. You died very, very well. There goes Gelt over there. Again, the Imperial Captain is over there. That Hound spell didn't really get to do too much. But this captain is trying to bring down the enemy Gelt. The enemy impersonator, I guess. The Halberds are still trying to break through the center of the line. We do still have some crossbows and handguns alive. And the steam tank, I believe, is about to go down. But it is buying time for some of these crossbows to do some damage. Man, that thing is holding on. Holy crap. Alright, there we go. They did get some fire into these Hellstorm rocket crews, but at this point, the Hellstorms have mostly fired all of their rockets, so they have, they've done a good job. Here comes the Bright Wizard to reinforce the Halberds that are still in the middle, but now they are met with the Great Swords. So they had to fight through that line of spears, and now they have to fight through a line of Great Swords. Where's the second Great Sword unit? There was 2 of them. Did they die? Oh, here they are. They went into the handgunners. Okay. I didn't think they got killed. So Great Sword is going to do pretty good against anything that the Empire player has left here, except for those Demigryph Knights. 4 AoE spells from Gelt on this poor clump of halberdiers. The Demigryph Knights, after taking out the steam tank, are going to get into the crossbows. Nice charge there. Nice charge. The Bright Wizard goes straight to the back line. I'm not sure why, but they are being chased by the Empire Captain. I don't know why they decided to move over here.
Die, traitor!
Interesting. But in the meantime, the Bright Wizard's army is back here routing. And they're going to be like, oh, we're routing now. Okay. Okay, well, let me leave this battlefield then. And that's going to do it for the battle there. Good games to my opponents and my ally. Let's just take a quick look at the kill counts. See how much damage that artillery did. Alright, so there's 2 Hell Blasters, even taken down to almost dead for one of them. They still were able to man enough cannons to do a lot of damage before my Slayers finally shut them down. That's a lot of kills, but those were luckily mostly against my Dwarf Warriors who were there to die. I think they may have snagged some of my Longbirds though as well. And then the other set, those 3 mortar teams almost did nothing. So, well, they do hit point damage. That still does happen. Against the heavily armored troop, the mortar team is not as effective. Because all of these units have, except for the Slayers, have 80 armor at least. And these are not really armor piercing. They're more for the lower armored units, but they still look impressive. And they do damage. I don't know how much damage they did, but they do damage. The Great Cannon, though, 164 kills. Really good, because I was just kind of standing still, trying to let my allies Hellstorm be able to fire for free without worry of the Great Cannon, so that thing racked up a lot of kills. Swordsmen didn't do too well. They did just about as good as my Dwarf Warriors did, but that's to be expected. They are pretty low tier units just to hold the line. Karl Franz got 45 kills, while Ungrim got 89, our Thane got 49, and our Runesmith got 39, on top of also laying down buffs for our army on the right flank. The Great Swords, I think, did okay, considering they were put up against the Great Weapons, which are made to counter them, and they are being focused down by the Quarrelers. The Demigryph Knights, they did bring down a steam tank, so that's pretty good. These Knights still managed to get 63 kills on our Slayers before we silenced them, so that's not bad either. Speaking of Slayers, though, some high amount of kills there, except for this one group who got murdered by the Demigryph Knights. Quarrelers, for the most part, I'm happy with. I'm happy with mostly everything, especially our heroes. Our Thane, 49 kills. That's a lot. I've not really used the Thane often, but I may have to bring him some more. And then let's look at our ally here, the Hellstorm rocket batteries. We're able to fire almost all of their rockets and got a good amount of kills from it. So, in this game, in this battle, the Hellstorms, I'd say were worth it. I'd say they were worth it. Steam Tank did get shut down by those Demigryph Knights, but it was cool to see it brought. The crossbows did really well. Great Swords just massacred those poor handgunners and halberdiers. The Empire Captain got 40 kills, and Balthasar Gelt got 59, which is a really solid amount, I think, for a caster. So, yeah, while theirs, unfortunately, got 0, and then the Bright Wizard got 9. Yeah, anyway, again, good game to my opponents. Hope you enjoyed seeing these Slayers back on the field. They are funny troops to watch charge as they just lift both their hatchets, and some of them just dive like headfirst into units. They're a cool unit. I enjoy using them now. I know I talked a lot of crap about them early on in Total War, but you know what? I take it back. They're totally fine. So again, I hope you all have a good day. Take care.